Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe now for future content. Please make sure to leave a like on this video, because it will help this video perform at a much higher level in the search engine. Let's get this channel found for once. If you want to be featured on an upcoming video, email your true scary stories to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. The link to my email will be in the description box below. Sit back, relax, enjoy, and stay sinful. I've always hated the new house I lived in. The sink was rusty, things were broken, and the neighbors were super loud. Every time I took the shower, the light would go out and I would hear scratching on the walls. I try to stay up every evening to make sure nothing terrible is happening. One time I fell asleep and woke up to scratches on my leg. The weirdest thing is, I live alone. The neighbors are pretty nice to me, but they seem strange. They offer for me to stay at their place, but every apartment is the same as mine. My little brother Tim would stop by since he works at a 7-Eleven nearby. Every Thursday, for some reason, all my neighbors gather around and light a campfire. I thought it was normal, but they kept inviting me. "Johnny, why don't you come with us to the ceremony?" They always ask. "Sorry, I'm busy," I reply back. For some reason, every time they ask, they get more aggressive. "Come with us." The weirdest thing so far was when I opened my fridge. There was a fake human head in there. I freaked out and hit my head on the table. That made me pass out. I guess one of my neighbors found me and took care of me. They let me use their shower, but something seemed off. Their place looked super clean and had no damage. That wasn't the same as mine. I walked outside for some fresh air and they were doing the ceremony again. But I saw something weird. Instead of a campfire, it was a huge cross. Someone was hanging from it. One of the neighbors spotted me and shouted for everyone. I was being chased with weapons I never knew existed. What the hell is happening? Someone stopped in front of me and hit me on the head with a lead pipe. The people I thought were friendly were pure evil. I woke up to a fire burning under me, and it burnt my foot by a little. Little by little, they let down a rope that was tied around my waist. It was like they were trying to kill me. Luckily, my brother saw what was happening and called the police. When the police arrived, everyone was gone, and they let me off of the rope. I found out that everyone that was in the ritual was a wanted criminal. This wasn't the first time they did this. They did this over 13 times. I was going to be their 14th sacrifice to their god. I walked back to my room and I saw a little opening to somewhere. I opened the hatch and saw they worshiped the devil. I never heard from anyone there again. I'm not entirely sure how to tell this story. I was laying with my eyes closed for a while. They started to hurt from playing Splinterland so long. Anyway, after a while, one of my eyelids opened just enough to get the smallest amount of light in possible. Somehow it must have acted like a microscope, and the back of my eyelid was like a slide. The only reason I know this is because I saw the most terrifying looking thing crawling across my field of vision. At first, two little sprites appeared through a mostly dark space in a little slit of my vision. Then it crawled across the lit section antenna, first followed by a small mantis-looking head with two eyes close to the front, almost directly behind the antenna. It moved so fast it was hard to comprehend at first. However, it was far from over. The head was attached to a very disproportionate neck. It would be like a person having a toothpick for a head. The body looked like a double-sided comb. Thousands of long legs swimming back and forth, propelling a very fat and very long transparent body across a small section somewhere in my body. Once it had crawled enough from my mind to get a good focus on what I was seeing, I realized it was definitely a one-celled microorganism. I got scared and opened my eyes. I never got to see how long it was, but what I saw was already really long compared to the head of it. As I typed this out, I wonder if it was a brain worm larva. The body, though transparent, had a pinkish color around the edge, and the legs were a bluish-pinkish mix. It had 2 veins running the length of the center of its body, with evenly spaced organs directly stemming from them in a linear fashion. There were little black nodes right under every dozen or so legs. I assumed they were controlling the legs. Turns out the body is only 10% human and 90% microbe. Google says there's up to 100 trillion bacteria in the adult body. Even so, my eye hasn't stopped feeling kind of funny and randomly itching ever since. I had just moved into a new house, and for once things were actually going well for me. I recently got a great job offer as an engineer, and I had just graduated from university. Behind my backyard there was a dense forest. I occasionally saw coyotes or raccoons, but they never got too close to my house. I had just gotten back from work and I was watching a movie when I heard something tap on my backyard window. Tap, tap, tap. But since it was nighttime, I had my curtains drawn, and that meant I couldn't see what was making the tapping noise. Curious, I stood up and began walking over to the window. Tap, 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 scratch, scratch. But as I walked over to the window, I stopped. I utterly stopped. I suddenly became very, very scared of what could be making this noise, what the thing making the noise could be. The possibilities were literally endless. I sat down on my couch and I turned the volume up on the TV, trying to drown out the tapping noise. As I turned the volume up, the tapping noise became louder and faster. A rush of adrenaline hit me as I sat there frozen with terror. It was a fight or flight situation. I chose flight. I stood up and ran upstairs, where I ran to my bedroom and locked the door. The tapping became louder, and I thought the glass might actually break. I ran over to my closet and grabbed my pistol I kept for emergencies. I lied down on my bed, petrified, but suddenly the tapping stopped. The moment the tapping went silent, my heart almost stopped. I closed my eyes, hoping that this was all just a very bad dream. At some point during the night, I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up at 12 a.m. What happened yesterday? Was it all just a bad dream? I could only hope so. My entire body was sore and I was exhausted. I walked downstairs, shuffled over to the backyard window, and I drew the curtains. To my horror, there were 3 claw marks and a dozen small holes engraved into the glass of the backyard window. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a dream. What happened last night was not a dream. I examined the claw marks and holes, and I discovered something horrifying. The claw marks were huge, and I mean huge. Each claw mark was 2 feet long and 3 centimeters deep. But no human or animal had nails or claws 2 feet long, and to think that something else could intelligently make patterns and rhythms using tapping sounds. I was surprised that my window didn't break from the damage. The reason my window didn't break was I had 3 panes installed into one window frame, but still the glass was severely damaged. I decided to take a day off from work to rest and relax. I laid down on my couch and took a long nap. When I woke up, it was around 6 p.m. I lost track of time. It was nearly dark outside, and I hadn't thought about what I would do when it was nighttime. I suddenly got this need to shut all the curtains and blinds to my home. I don't know why, but it was just a gut feeling, as if something bad would happen if I didn't shut the curtains and blinds. Also, I didn't want to risk looking out a window and finding out what was making the tapping noise from yesterday, so I listened to my gut feeling and I closed all the curtains and blinds. Then came nightfall. I laid down in my bed and tried to sleep, but sleep refused to come. At 10 p.m. my eyelids became very heavy, and I was starting to drift off to sleep, but I heard the one noise I had been dreading all night. Tap, tap, tap. I seized up and grabbed my pistol, but instead of calling the police, I just sat there, paralyzed with fear. Finally, I gathered enough courage to shout at the creature making the tapping noise. "Get away from my house!" I screamed. The tapping suddenly stopped, but a second later the tapping came back again, but without warning the tapping increased intensity, speed, and volume. I held my breath and listened to the tapping. The tapping then morphed into scratching, followed by a ragged, wet breathing. Without warning, the backyard window shattered. I closed my eyes and felt the biggest rush of fear that I could ever have felt in my entire life. I heard broken glass shatter on the floor as something massive crawled through the broken window. I cocked my pistol as a creature prowled around the living room. I slowly reached for my phone, trying to stay as quiet as possible. I dialed 911 and prayed that the creature wouldn't come upstairs. 911, what's your emergency? Asked the operator. Something just broke into my house, I whispered. Please send help. I live at 37 Mariana Boulevard. Sir, I need you to stay calm. I'm sending 2 units out to your area. I stayed on the line even though I didn't want to talk to the operator. I listened to the creature as it came towards the stairs. As the creature crawled up the stairs, I could hear strange noises coming from it. I heard a whirring type sound coming from the creature, followed by a sickening pop and an unearthly screech. The creature had reached the top of the stairs, and my heart felt like it was going to stop at any moment. I heard the creature slowly approach the end of the hallway, but it suddenly stopped when it was in front of my bedroom. I almost had a heart attack when the creature started breaking down the door. A few nights ago, I got a text from my dad. He told me that he loved me and insisted that I should come over to see him the very next day. The following morning, I arrived at Dad's house. As I walked up the driveway, I noticed that his front door was wide open. Upon entering the house, I immediately saw my dad lying face down in a pool of blood. Somebody had broken into my dad's house in the early hours of the morning and murdered him. What terrifies me most is not knowing who sent the text the night before. I was still living at my parents' at the time of this incident. It's worth noting that we have a privacy fence around most of our property, but the fence to the driveway is chain link, but around 7 feet tall. It was during the summertime, so the sun sets fairly late. I was out on the back porch smoking at around 7 p.m., and it was dark soon. We have 4 dogs that stay predominantly outside. They don't like being inside. They started barking and whining. So I look out towards the driveway, and I see a man just standing there, staring towards my dogs and I. I immediately get creeped out because he is just standing there mumbling something that I couldn't make out. My neighborhood isn't in the best area, and there are quite a few druggies that live in my neighborhood. He starts walking towards the fence and I yell out, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he says in a creepy voice, "I just like dogs." I ran inside and got my dad, who runs out of the gate with his gun in hand, yelling at the man to leave. The guy mumbles something again and tries to head towards the woods behind my house. My dad yelled that this was private property and that he was armed. The guy finally leaves and goes walking down the street into the night. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Email your true scary stories to the link in the description box below. Please send me stories, that way you have a chance of being featured on the channel. Till we meet again, stay sinful.